So welcome to our Affordable Housing Committee meeting for May. We'll start with the roll call. Hillary.
Present.
Here. Krista Nielsen.
Here.
Bill Parrott. Bill Parrott. Bill. Bob Strong.
Here.
Michael Sweeney.
Here.
Maria Weingarten. Jane Williams.
Here.
Jeff Williams.
Here.
And myself. All right. First item on the agenda is the minutes for the April 21st meeting. We need to approve them. Can I have a motion? Okay, Jane. Can I have a second?
Second.
Jeff. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay, so the meeting minutes are official. Where do I sign?
Just sign on that.
Okay, we'll work on that after. Okay. We have our leadership challenges. We need to elect a chairman and a secretary. As discussed, I am happy to step up to chairman. If I do, we will need a secretary. Any comments, questions?
I think you'd make an excellent chair.
You're a good man.
Yes.
Okay,
So this is the
One job I have as
Deanna.
is I get to run elections for all boards and commissions. That's why I'm here. I didn't want you to know that I do watch all of your meetings, every one of them. It's, you know, as I said during my campaign, affordable housing is one of the most important topics we need to tackle in this community and across the state. So thank you all for all your work. I see Krista does like double duty with significantly long planning and zoning meetings and then gets to come back and be here. So thank you for your double duty. Okay, so I guess we'll start with the office of chair. I guess we haven't, who would like to nominate for the office of chair? Hillary. I have a second. Okay, are there, oh.
Jeff.
Jeff.
And do I have any further nominations for the office of chair? Seeing none, all those in favor of Chris Wilson for
Aye.
chair? It's unanimous. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you stepping up.
Thank
All
you.
right. And then, so we need a secretary. Do we have anyone who is willing to take on the role of secretary? We need a secretary.
So if I could just, secretary is essentially vice chair in this committee. We have people to help us with minutes. There's not a lot of obligation in that regard. So, and obviously it's got to be among the members who are at-large members of the committee.
So,
I'd like to nominate Jane Williams to be secretary. And it doesn't mean minutes and it's
Nope.
basically
Nope.
teaming up with.
teaming up with
Yes.
town hall, because I mean, you'll have, it probably won't be Tucker, but you'll have probably not, but
It's
it will be a staff member who will come and take the minutes and do the Zooms and things like that. So
so it's really about helping steer the direction of the committee.
Jane, to
Second,
put you on the spot.
No, that's okay. I don't think they're, I don't think it's fair to ask. So I think that process of elimination.
there you go. Is there a second for Jane's nomination? Krista,
what are you doing?
sorry, sorry.
Here's some,
I take that back.
all right, so we have a nomination for Jane. Do I have a second? Thank you, Krista. All right, and I'm assuming we're not going to have another nomination. So all those in favor for Jane, it's unanimous. Thanks. You can take them up for yourself. Okay, all right. Thank you, guys. I
Thank you,
appreciate it and
Deanna.
look forward to following the work of the committee.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you both for agreeing to serve. Jane's gonna egg my car.
She hasn't egged a car in a few months.
Yeah.
Well, they're too expensive, so.
Report of the project subcommittee.
Well, the project subcommittee still hasn't met anytime recently, so I don't have too much to report. But I
Okay.
do want to talk later in the agenda about our budget allocation and what we plan to do.
Okay. Finance subcommittee has not met, but also probably needs a new chair. We'll talk about that at some point for future reference. On to discussion on use of the budget allocation. So as you probably know, we requested $30,000 in the fiscal year 2026 town budget. So from July 2025 to June 2026. And that was approved. So the items we talked about spending that on were consultants or experts to help us with further site assessments, including but not limited to title history, deed restrictions, site conditions, including topography and wetlands, infrastructure availability and capacity, so sewer, water, street, pedestrian, development potential under existing zoning, development potential under new zoning, proposed unit mix, affordable and market rate, and unit sizes, conceptual drawings of the heights and massing to achieve the desired number of units, rough cost estimates for construction, and basically helping us present alternatives to the public and to the town council. Any questions or comments related to that plan?
I was trying to write it all down and then I realized.
I think I
I
wrote it
think
down
you
the
wrote
first
it.
time.
I think you wrote it. I
So I
think I
don't need
just
to.
copied that from an email you
Yeah.
sent. me. So
Sounded really.
It sounded really good.
if there's a fatal flaw, it's your own.
Right.
So, there you go.
Understood. Yeah, I think that that's this generally the scope of work we need. But to take it up a higher level, I mean, I think we need to probably narrow down the sites that the project subcommittee looked at to the top 3, which I think we kind of probably all have the same ones in our head, but we should probably meet and confirm that we're on the same page. And then do that type of work. I'd love to see for each site kind of a low estimate of the number of units, you know, like if we did something smaller on the site, what that could be, and then kind of like the max, so that we can kind of see the two ends of the spectrum in terms of what the development potential for each of those sites are, and then corresponding numbers in terms of magnitude of cost.
So from my perspective, the work probably splits up in either 2 or 3 pieces. One is architectural type assessment, second is legal, and then third is the cost part. It's probably best to start with the architectural and then
Yeah,
work our way through legal and cost.
yeah,
I've confirmed there, I received from Tucker a chart of purchase and approval levels for the town. She confirmed that this is for consultants as well as
oh, for professional services as well.
for professional services as well as purchase orders. So there will be some work to do depending on how the pieces split up. But I would propose that we rigorously follow the suggestions in this chart.
I asked Deanna or Tucker some clarifying questions as we do that. So first, I know it was broken out by amount, and I know the maximum was 50,000, but when you're down closer, let's say in the $10,000 to $15,000 range, I mean, we don't have to do a formal RFP. We need to probably talk to multiple people, or do
Right,
we do
so
have to do a formal?
Anything, so yes, you don't even have a budget. So 50,000 and above has to have a formal bids. 25 to 50 need to have multiple estimates.
Okay.
Quotes. You have to get quotes, not a
Right.
full RFP, but you have to get multiple quotes.
Okay,
And then 10 to 25, you should have some verbal
Okay.
things like that. So, I think it's just good policy to
Yeah.
get multiple estimates. It's just, you don't have to do an RFP unless it's over 50.
Okay. I just
So-
wanted to confirm that.
Yep,
we
and
didn't
then
have to do that.
anything over 10,000 will have to go
The board.
to the board. And if if it's a vendor that we've used in other parts of the town already, and we get over a certain amount, you may have to come through all three boards for
Oh,
that as well.
Interesting.
How do we find out?
It just, if you let us know who the vendor is, we can find out through finance.
Okay.
So,
Is there any economies of scale by using an existing vendor that the town has? Like, I don't know if the town, I assume the town probably has some architects
Yep.
on retainer for other public works
I don't know if we
projects.
have like retainer, we don't have architects on retainer, but, we obviously have structural engineers that we use. And so, so we have different people that, and obviously that come through planning and zoning, but, DPW uses a lot of, engineering type firms and design firms. So,
Okay.
we can talk about it and see where we are with that. So if you guys have people you like to use, or we can talk with DPW or
About who they
planning,
already
yeah.
have. Okay. All right.
so Sarah or Tiger would probably be good people to talk to.
Sorry.
Any other?
Make you
we-
bring 'em up
now
here.
that we
Those are my
have Deanna
questions.
Up here, any other questions for either Tucker or Deanna on how we go about this? Do you want to talk a little bit about kind of ideas? I don't know if it's too early to talk about ideas.
So I mean, I have kind of been told a couple of names of more architect type people who might be interested in this work. But I think we need to vet them. And so I guess what I would say to the committee, and I'll say it again, if we have a subcommittee meeting, is if you have names, if you've come across people, that have done this type of work, maybe in other communities, let's talk about them and let's talk to them, and even maybe have some of them or one of them, somebody come to the June meeting and present so that we can start to narrow down the list.
And is it okay if we connect them to you?
I mean, as long as.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay, that's fine.
all for it.
You don't want that responsibility, Chris?
My job, I'm already taking things off your shoulders and giving them.
There you
to
go. There you go.
There's a lot of that going on today.
Any other questions, comments, suggestions related use of this budget allocation?
The only question I'd have is, or an additional comment is, in the description of the work to be provided, I'm not sure if parking was included in there, but that probably should be added to the laundry list. I know that in the housing authority, we tried to balance parking with maximizing units, and sometimes we may have gone too far one way or the other, but that's something that'll have to be incorporated into the description.
Yeah, that's a very good idea.
Depending on the site too, how close to town it is.
Yeah, because that can take up a lot of real estate
And a lot of budget,
and a lot of budget.
expensive, particularly if we were to use an existing parking lot that the town uses, we'd have to provide those spaces presumably back.
Yeah.
I just have a clarifying question, and I have a feeling most of you know the answer, but is it okay for us to start the process of talking to people prior to the July 1?
As
Yes.
long as you're not submitting any kind of request for payment until after the budget year begins.
I'll go further. I think it's good if we have our plan set so that we can really pounce when we
Great.
get the
I
new
agree.
fiscal year.
Yeah, I think that would be ideal if we kind of targeted July or August at the latest to have a contract before the Board of Selectmen.
Great.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is discussing target dates for a major development. The thought here is that we should at least have in mind a set of threshold dates. I wouldn't propose that we come up with them today, but we should at least have in mind a set of threshold dates for where we need to be at certain points in terms of a major development, because as we've seen in the past, they take 5+ years. We have the luxury of time at this point, but it could get away from us, and there would be no excuse
Right.
for this committee not to have a solution for 2028.
Mike, would it be possible for you as the representative for the housing authority to give us an example? I mean, I know we've had this and someone could probably easily go back and call it of, when they maybe started with an architect on Canaan Parish all the way through the CL. And I mean, just hit some of the major milestones so we can kind of use that and work backwards.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, Canaan Parish was elongated a bit because we had a joint venture with
Oh,
Canaan Parish
or
folks.
maybe Milford's better. I don't know.
But Millport was just housing authority did that on our own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can get a timeline done.
Yeah.
And we had prepared one too when we started too about, we had Heritage Housing, Sullivan, David
McCarthy.
Carthy. They do a lot of the work up front that we're looking now to have some help on.
Mhm.
Of course, then we had the soft costs from the town, so we were funded up front to get all the soft costs done. But yeah, I can get a timeline, general timeline.
That will, that's an item that'll reoccur until we set the dates, but it's something I'd like us to work on. Anything else on that topic before we move on? Oh, so next item is discussing a criteria for small site acquisitions. Periodically, sites in town come up. There were the set of duplexes on River Road, River Avenue, River Road.
I think it's River Street.
That came up. There was the two duplexes at the corner of Park and 106 that came up. One of the difficulties we have in actioning those type of thoughts is that we don't really have any rubric to work with as to assessing whether a site makes sense or doesn't make sense and how we might go about financing it. So we can maybe push this down into the committees. Projects committee can come up with some metrics for what we should be looking for. And finance committee can think about how we might finance it. But, I do take Art Cassavant's and other people's warnings that we don't want to spread the town's affordable housing to too many small sites, but it may be something we could look at partnering with Habitat on or something else. It'd just be good to have, before these sites come up, to have a way of thinking about them so that we can say, yes, that one might make sense. No, it doesn't make sense. And here's the reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I have thought that the project committee on the sort of identifying which sites are appropriate side could probably at some point go so far as having a mapping system where properties are just kind of color coded in terms of the criteria, or ranked in terms of the criteria. And it's like, if someone says, hey, what about this property? And we click on it and it's green, then it's like, all right, that one's something we're interested in. But so I mean, it could be, I think, pretty routinized. It wouldn't have to be super discretionary. I mean, obviously there's discretion built into the system, but.
Anything else on that?
One issue I think we ought to talk about is agility.
Mhm.
What would it take for us to be agile enough to
Yeah.
move? Because as you know, these things get sold very quickly, at least in this
Yep.
market.
Yep.
And without having a plan of, okay, yes, it's green. That
Right.
means we need to do A, B, and C, and we know how to do it when and can get it done in a timely fashion.
And I think that's more than just financial. I mean, I think the
Yeah.
financing is obviously a big piece of it, knowing here's where the money's at when it's time to go.
Yeah, ideally, we'd be able to say, this site's come up, go to, say, the Board of Selectmen and say, it meets the criteria we set out.
Here's where the money is.
Here's the thought about how we fund it and try and action things. But yeah, we would have to work at the speed of the market because most of these things are listed by the time you are aware of them.
The other piece too, then I think is also, I mean, I would imagine if we went before the Board of Selectmen and said, hey, this, meets all our criteria, we've got the money lined up. The question's going to be, who's going to manage it? Like, we're going to acquire it. Who's going to acquire it? The town's going to acquire it. The housing authority's going to, So to your point about Habitat, I think, we need to have some of
Yeah.
those answers ready to go too, in terms of who are the partners that want to participate in this.
And somebody, one of the, I think, one of the real estate folks who came and spoke to the committee talked about incentivizing the real estate community to keep an eye out. And I don't know if that would be, I don't know how we do that, but spreading the word that we are looking would be important.
Yes,
I don't know if we can incentivize.
I think once we're, hopefully you wouldn't need to incentivize very much, but I think once we have clear criteria, communicating that would make sense. Anything else on that? Public comment, we're limited on public. Anybody out there?
Can you imagine?
Okay, barring any other suggestions or at adjournment, can we have a motion?
So move.
Okay, Mike. Second,
I'll second.
okay, Krista. Okay, all in favor of adjournment? Okay, thank you.